best job in the world.
So we're watching footage now. We thought there was big issues around people because they barked, lunged, did all the craziness at some people one time. Done a bunch of setups.
Multiple times.
Well, multiple times, yeah. But we've done a bunch of setups trying to not only get footage of it happening, but fixing it. And we haven't really. It seems that it's not an issue at all. There's still a bit big feelings about other dogs, which won't be a problem. We can fix that. My dogs, Janaz's dogs, we'll be able to work them through it. But it seems that we went to great lengths to try and set up a scenario where the behavior would be represented and we could fix it. And we could get footage of us doing that, but it didn't happen. So we're not at all worried about their nerves socializing or anything like that. This week in the void is the space between Christmas and New Year's.
Where we don't know what day it is.
You mostly just did socialization, intro to stuff.
Took them out, did some generalization for the clicker, took them to the vet, and exposure stuff. So like
Tell us about the vet and the prep work that you did for that.
First stage is just flipping them upside down here and teaching them like not to resist that, just to relax here. Hey, if you're going to start squirming out and resisting, then I just have pressure on your chest and under your chin and just support you there. As soon as you stop resisting, then I just release that pressure. And yesterday, who was it? Parker fell asleep while I was watching the TV. So I was like, oh, I guess I've just got to watch this movie for 2 hours now. What a shame, can't move a dog.
So I reckon one of the most important things in raising a puppy is doing that. Like,
Yeah.
and it's one of the things that I think sort of has fallen by the wayside. Like not many people, especially in the pet dog space, are taught is how to put your dog through like the struggle cuddle of like, hey, this is happening.
And that's the thing, it starts day one, not even just with this. Like if I pick up the dog and they're squirming, it's like, now I can't put you down until you relax that small little bit.
Yeah.
That's the start of it.
Yeah. And I think it does a lot of things. It shows a dog, first of all, just be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that's life, get on with it. Like these things happen. But also I think that it develops a strong trust with the dog where you put the dog into a really uncomfortable position for the dog where it resists and thinks, hey, I don't like this. I don't want this to happen. This is scary to me. I'm concerned. And then you go, yeah, but it's happening. And then they're like, oh, eventually they give in and stop resisting and go, oh, this is amazing. This is the best thing ever. And you then get to do the like, see, I told you so. Yeah. And now that problem's gone. And now they'll never resist that kind of thing again. And
it transfers over to like, hey, like we're gonna tell you to do a sit on this unstable thing, but hey, it's cool, man. Like, have I screwed you over before? No, we've developed the trust from something as simple as this, but it transitions to everything.
Yeah. And I think you get a window in time with puppies where it's just, not only is it physically easier, but they're ignorant. I think that's one of the main things of dealing with puppies. It's a Jerry Bradshaw line that I've stolen a million times, is to capitalize on the ignorance of puppies.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. So you're like, well, here, this is just how it goes. But try and do that shit to an adult dog. Like, good luck. And like, it'll still work if you were physically capable of doing it.
It's just going to be more difficult.
Yeah. And I think that the stress that an adult dog would go through in order to yield in that way would be quite high. And you'd have to start sort of thinking like, is this a reasonable thing to do?
Yeah.
Whereas with puppies, it's over in 10 seconds. And so the amount of stress they go through is very minimal, especially when you consider the huge gains that come of it.
Yeah.
Socialization versus, risk of infection and whatever is an interesting one. And I think that's something that comes up all the time because I always advocate to people that they should be socializing their puppies straight away. But I live in an area here, like I live in this area, I work in this area where parvo's quite unlikely. And I've never had a problem. But it really depends on where you are and you got to calculate those risks.
Yeah.
And as I find myself, when people say, well, I live in an area where there's parvo, so I can't socialize my puppy that way. I'm like, do you own a car? Because you should go to an area where there's no parvo and really start doing this, because unless you've got a rock star nerves-wise, you're putting
Which you're not going to know
Yeah.
unless they're in a situation, and it's if you wait until later to find out.
Yeah. And chances are with your rescue Kelpie Staffy cross, you don't have great nerves on that dog, and so you need to start getting that out and exposing it as much as possible. We're very lucky here that, like, first of all, it's very low risk of any sort of pathogens or whatever, so we're I feel very comfortable taking puppies everywhere around here. But within just a lap of this block, we can expose them to people in wheelchairs. We can expose them to loud vehicles, like streets with
Trolleys.
lots of vehicles, trolleys, quieter streets, lots of people walking
Crazy
around.
ladies wanting to steal your dog.
Well, and there's always people that want to interact with them. That's an interesting topic as well. You know, like I don't mind people doing that, especially with young dogs. I don't care. Yeah. They can pat them as much as they want. I want the dog to be like, yeah, whatever, this person pats me, and I give them food afterwards. And they're like, well, fuck your patting. I prefer that when the guy gives me food. We're very lucky to be able to socialize them like that. And we just took both of them out. You took the food, you took the clicker, had no cause to use either. They just had an experience around. One of the tricky things about trying to socialize puppies like that, and what I noticed just then was that Peter was more in drive than Parker was, because trying to keep them out of drive is kind of important. Like I don't want my puppies being in drive while they're being socialized. Otherwise they're not being socialized. They're just in drive. They're running around. They're chasing down, you know, prey or whatever, food or whatever it is that they think they're after, whatever drive they're in. But as we know, with high drive dogs, that drive covers everything. Drive hides all of the problems.
Yeah.
And so we want to try and keep them out of drive as much as possible. Now, just doing that then, Peter was a little bit more in drive than Parker, mostly because he was chasing me. Like I was trying to stay ahead of him.
I was a little tempted to let him get a leg bite in, but then we just would have ruined the rest of the walk.
Whereas Parker seemed to be a little bit more tired or relaxed or doesn't care as much, whatever it was. So even though he didn't do as much and he moves slower, and he probably gets to tick the box a little bit better and say that was a better session for him because he actually took things in, looked around.
He took interest. Like think of the trolley. When I grabbed the trolley, he was a bit like, oh, hang on, it's moving. What's happening? Oh, yeah, okay, cool, right. Where Peter was just like, I'm running next to the thing. I'm a bit oblivious that it's there because I'm watching you. So I took note of that as well.
So also this week you started your article indication. First session. It's a tricky thing because it's the first time really that we're asking these little dogs to be operant, whereby everything in the past has been classical. Food comes out. We don't ask anything of you. You hear a marker, you get the food. You hear a marker, you get the food. We've got that dialed in on them. Now you're asking them do something in order to earn that food. And it's as simple as look at something on the floor.
Yeah.
But it's a big step and it's always a huge mess. But it literally is the first time that they're learning that food is transactional, that it's something they can earn rather than that it's just something that gets given to them.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, the 6th, 7th time or something that I've taught puppies that we've sold, and then on top of this, like clients' puppies and things, right? I've taught them these article indications, and every time I question, am I even a dog trainer? This is absolute rubbish. What is happening? This doesn't even look like a training session. What's going on? But it's part of the process. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's always a mess. They all turn out fine. But I've been contemplating a couple of ways to teach the article indications. So I've done them both before for different dogs and everything. I do have a preferred way, whether it's preferred just because I'm more skillful at that technique than the other, or maybe it's just more suited to the dogs that I always do it with. They're similar, but also very different.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing special about this. It's just a juice bottle lid. I like it. So shake that glass. Basically that, and put a piece of kibble on the floor, chuck the lid over it. The puppy's like, hey, I want that kibble. We'll sniff it, look at it, and then eventually go, how do I get to it? When they go, how do I get to it? And they pause for a brief moment, but still like engage with it, lift it up, give them the food. I'm very clunky with it. Now that could just be my skill at that particular way of doing it isn't very good. But I also find that using the washer, so I chuck the washer down, and the dog's like, or the puppy's like, hey, I don't know what that is. That's interesting. Look at it, toss kibble. And then you're tossing kibble down on the whole time onto this washer, and eventually, like, it's just flowing from the start, but then eventually, like, you start to have small pauses between each piece of kibble, and then eventually there's no kibble. They look to your hand. That's going to happen, and I want it to happen. They will try to mouth at your hand, bite at your hand, try to get all the food out, might spin around, do all this stuff. And then eventually they're going to go, shit, that doesn't work. Oh, that thing's there. Wonder if there's any more. And they'll look down at this, And that's where you start dropping food again. So, and I like to jackpot that at times. Other times I'll just start the dribbling again. So they start to realize this thing, this washer, this article on the ground is what brings the food.
After the washer, you go straight to nails?
Yeah, pretty much. So so this is obviously a very big one. I need to make sure that they're not going to eat it because we're just starting this out. They have no idea, don't want a puppy swallowing a washer. So start with a really big one, then go down to a fairly small one where they probably could eat it, but they do have an idea of what's going on.
They know not to at that point.
Yeah, and then I start to go to a nail.